Hello, my name is Ryan Kirchner with Porsche of the Mainline, and welcome to the RDS Spotlight on the new 718 Cayman S. Now, where does the 718 come from? No, it's not an area code, but it is in New York City. 718 is actually an old Porsche race car that raced from the mid-50s to the early 60s. It was a very successful car, winning races both at Le Mans in its class, the Targa Florio, and the 12 Hours of Sebring. It was a low, light, mid-engine sports car that really beat up its rivals that had larger engines and more power. So that's where the 718 comes from, because the Cayman and the Boxster, which are now both a part of the 718 series, are both mid-engine cars. By bringing the new 718 series to Porsche's mid-engine sports cars, Porsche is really showing the maturity of its mid-engine sports cars and giving them a new identity and really solidifying that identity within the Porsche lineup. So you start to notice some key features of the 718 identity, including these very hard cuts you'll notice on the fender lines. So it's a little less rounded than previous generation Caymans, and also a little less rounded than the 911. So you have these harder lines on the fenders, as well as the headlights. They're less oval, they're a little more squared off along the bottoms. You also notice more lateral lines going across the front of the car, and they're down low too, so that gives the car a nice low, squat look on the road, giving it a great stance and a unique look. The air intakes, you also notice, are a little bit larger to allow more air to come into the motor area, which we'll talk about later. Also along the sides, you'll notice that the scoops, the indent in the door has been increased, as well as the side scoop has been flared out to allow more air to get into the engine bay for better cooling. New door handles, new mirror supports with the V design, giving it a nice, aggressive, sporty stance. Moving along to the back, you'll notice that the wheels, they're a ½ inch wider, and they've also been moved out a little bit. So whenever you see the car from the rear, it has a nice wide look from that rear stance. Another update with the headlights you'll notice when you come in close is just the detail, the finishing of it. Porsche really put an emphasis on making sure that the materials and the design, even in the smallest details such as the headlights, is impeccable, just like the rest of the car. So be sure when you're taking a look at the car in the showroom, you look at those headlights and notice the different materials, the highlights, the edges that Porsche used in there. It's incredible. Leading into the back of the car, that cut line that starts all the way from the front fenders over the more streamlined rear haunches actually wraps all the way around the newly redesigned spoiler. That new spoiler is also a little more prominent than the previous generation Cayman was. You also notice the new taillight design. Again, like the headlights, very good detailing on Porsche's side, giving it a three-dimensional look with this clear glass lens cover. Again, like the front of the car, you notice lateral lines throughout the rear of the car that really give the car, again, a low, aggressive stance on the road. You notice lateral lines cut across there, and as well as on the bottom of the bumper as well. Also, the black strip that is new to the 718 range that highlights the Porsche logo is also more prominent. And again, another lateral line that's running across that back end to give the car that aggressive stance on the road from behind. The updates to the interior of the 718 Cayman are moderate, but they are there. Previous Cayman drivers will notice new vent design, echoing the first generation Cayman with a little more rounded vents. Also new placement of the Sport Chrono clock. A nice new feature is the all-new steering wheel. This particular one is the GT Sport steering wheel, which is 15 millimeters smaller in diameter than the standard steering wheel. And it also comes with these exposed screws, which is very much like the 918 Spider steering wheel. It gives it a great, simplistic, industrial design. Also, you'll notice on cars that are equipped with the Sport Chrono package, a new mode switch that sticks out from the steering wheel. So instead of having the buttons for Sport and Sport Plus on the center console, they're now selected from this rotary dial off of the steering wheel between Sport, Sport Plus, as well as a new individual mode where you can set the throttle response, the engine mapping, the transmission, the tuning of the exhaust, all to your liking in that individual setting. In the technology front, we have the new PCM display. Porsche's new PCM system refines their previous touchscreen system further and also makes it more user-friendly. It operates a little more like a tablet does. You'll notice on the home screen multiple different tiles for the different applications, as well as you still have hard buttons to access things like radio and Bluetooth and navigation. With the updated PCM comes a capacitive touchscreen. So now whenever you're in maps, it supports multi-gesture control. So you can pinch to zoom out or pull out to zoom in, and also twist to rotate the map around. A little more user-friendly. Another nice feature of the new PCM system is its new Apple CarPlay support with the Connect Plus option or the Connect option. So now with the cable from the center console, just plug in your iPhone, and it will pull up a screen similar to your iPhone screen onto the PCM system, allowing you access to various apps that you might use while driving, including navigation from Apple Maps, as well as Pandora, music, Spotify, etc. So perhaps the biggest change to happen to the Cayman series, and the other link back to that 718 race car of Porsche's history, going back to the 50s and 60s, is the new motor. The 718 race car had a mid-engine 4-cylinder motor. The new 718 Cayman and Cayman S have a mid-engine 4-cylinder motor, but this time it's turbocharged. So the base 718 Cayman comes with a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, flat 4 of course, that produces 300 horsepower. The new 718 Cayman S is 350 horsepower out of a 2.5-liter turbocharged flat 4 motor. The power increase is 25 horsepower over the previous models. That's huge for Porsche. And the torque is even up more. The new 718 Cayman S has 309 foot-pounds of torque. It is incredible. And with the new turbochargers on the 718 Cayman S, Porsche is using variable turbine geometry. Porsche has been using that and developing it for a number of years in the 911 turbo models, and it's used for the first time here in the Cayman. And what it does is it has these vanes that are able to direct the air around the fan of the turbo to different areas. So it can spread out the maximum torque that you get from the car. So the base torque, the 309 foot-pounds of torque, is available as low as 1900 RPM and stretches all the way to 4500. So from a start, you just ride this wave of torque all the way. It's incredible! And Porsche, keeping with their typical high red lines, maintains the red line up to 7,500 RPM. So while most 4-cylinder turbocharged motors, they'll kick out around 6,000, Porsche still likes that free revving high red line motor and feel. And that's what you get with this. So not only is the torque available from down low, but with that variable turbine geometry, it's very immediate. So you reduce the turbo lag with that. So the car actually has pretty naturally aspirated feel to it whenever you're actually driving. The great thing with the new 4-cylinder turbo boxer motor is that Porsche has maintained a typical flat motor sound that is usual for Porsche. So especially with the optional sport exhaust like you have on this car, you get this great throaty deep bass of an exhaust note that also comes into the cabin, especially whenever you put it into its sport modes. If you option the Sport Chrono package, which this car has, when you go into Sport or Sport Plus, you also get rev matching. So as you're downshifting into the different gears, the car will blip the throttle to go with you. That way you don't have to heel and toe yourself, but you sound like Mario Andretti. I love it. Also updated for the 718 Cayman and Cayman S is the new steering. It's 10% more responsive to your inputs, and also because it's Porsche's second generation of the electromechanical steering that first came out with the previous generation Cayman and Boxster, you get more road feel and a little more responsiveness through it as well. So while the first generation car was probably the best electromechanical assisted steering on the market, this now is even better. So when you're on the track and really pushing it hard, you still know where those front tires are, where you're getting your grip, and what is happening at those 4 contact patches. Porsche has really worked wonders with this new motor to even further differentiate the 718 series from the 911 series, giving it even more of a character all its own, giving it a new identity, a fresh identity that is unique, nimble, fast, and just so much fun to drive. It's great. The previous generation car, you really had to wring out that motor to get to the peak torque and the peak power. But in this car, that power is so available, so down low, and you just ride this wave of forward momentum forward. It's so much fun. When you're in sport mode in this car with the sport exhaust, Porsche allows a little bit of fun. It gives a little snap, crackle, and pop on the on liftoff on the throttle, a little back pressure release. It makes it really fun to throw around on a back road. Where are you going at safe speeds, of course. The incredible thing with the new 718 series is that the power that Porsche is developing from these small turbocharged 4-cylinder motors is impressive. I mean, 350 horsepower is great, but the 0 to 60 times the performance that they're getting out of this car is just unbelievable. For example, not even 10 years ago, supercars such as the Ferrari F430, Lamborghini Gallardo, Aston Martin Vanquish, Aston Martin DBS, their 0 to 60 times were all kind of right around the 4-second range. 0 to 60 time in a Cayman S with launch control and PDK, 4 seconds as well. So that's supercar territory in a car that has a 4-cylinder motor. It's impressive. It's incredible. It's what Porsche has always been doing. They're always able to get more from less, and especially with keeping the weight low in this car. Even though there's more internals that have to be used, and there's more standard features like reverse cameras and parking sensors and safety items, etc., the weight only went up by a mere 30 pounds. Porsche is able to get so much power and so much efficiency out of this motor by using a few different things. First of all, of course, the turbocharger, but also they use something called charge air cooling. So they're taking the air that those side intakes that we were talking about, how those are a little bit larger. The purpose of those is to get more air in. So it pulls in more air, directs that into the motor. There's a box, which is the charge air cooler, and that cools down the air. So cold air obviously has more mass to it. Cold air has more density to it. So you're able to pack more power into it. So the air that's going into the combustion chamber, has more ability to make more power, but is also more efficient. So you get the dual benefit of better efficiency, lower emissions, and more horsepower. So now that we've taken a look at the changes and the new identity that Porsche has given with the 718 nomenclature to the Cayman and the Boxster series, you can see how Porsche has tapped into its history with its mid-engine 4-cylinder 718 race car and brought that into the present with the 718 Cayman and Cayman S. Porsche, with the 718 race car, used that 4-cylinder small motor to beat out its competition that had larger motors and more power. And that's exactly what Porsche is doing with the 718 Cayman and Cayman S. So really, with this new identity that Porsche has given to the Cayman and Boxster series, really they're just reaffirming their own Porsche history of being able to do more with less. Thank you very much for watching. Again, my name is Ryan Kirchner. Please subscribe to our RDS Automotive Group YouTube channel to stay updated on further RDS Spotlight videos, or visit us in our showroom on Westchester Pike in Newtown Square. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you out on the road.